See, let me tell you something about men. We walk around looking tough, acting strong, acting like we got everything figured out. But underneath all that, we just want to feel seen. We just want to feel respected. And we just want to feel like we matter to the woman we're with. That's it. Simple. Men are not as complicated as you think. Now listen, a man will melt, not physically, but mentally when you hit him with the right thing. And it ain't always what you think. It's not the fancy outfit. It's not the way you do your hair. It's not even always what you say. It's the way you make him feel. When a woman believes in a man, when she supports him, when she talks to him in a way that lifts him instead of tearing him down, that man changes. You give a man respect and he will run through a brick wall for you. You clap for him when he's out there grinding. You tell him you're proud of him. You show him that his effort means something. That's when his chest swells up. That's when he walks different. Because in his mind, he's not just out here hustling for himself. He's doing it for y'all. Men melt mentally when you speak to the king in them, even when he feels like he ain't a king yet. You don't have to baby him. You don't have to tolerate foolishness. But when you treat him like he already has the crown, you'll see how fast he starts acting like he earned it. Let me give you the real truth. Men are wired for respect. Love is great. We all want love. But respect is the fuel. When a man feels disrespected, when he feels ignored, he shuts down. But when he feels honored, when he feels like his woman trusts him, admires him, and believes in him, oh, he melts. His guard drops, his pride softens, and he'll open up that part of his heart he doesn't show to nobody. Ladies, the secret isn't in trying to change a man. The secret is in recognizing the power you already have. A good word from you can heal a bad day. A little admiration from you can make him feel like he's 10 feet tall. You may not even realize it, but your voice is the soundtrack in his head. So if you want to know the truth, men melt mentally when you respect them, encourage them, and remind them they're worth something. That's the shortcut to his heart, his focus, and his loyalty. Respect is a man's love language. When he feels it, his walls come down. That's the truth most people overlook when they're trying to figure out men. See, we walk around like we're tough, like nothing bothers us, like we can take on the whole world and not blink, but deep down, every man wants to know he's respected by the woman he cares about. It's not about being perfect. It's not about having all the money or all the answers. It's about feeling like somebody sees him as valuable, capable, and worthy. You'd be surprised how many men out here are starving for respect more than anything else. You give a man respect, and suddenly his shoulders relax, his tone softens, and he starts showing you sides of himself that he keeps locked away from everybody else. That respect is like a key that opens doors in his mind, and in his heart, respect is more than just words. Anybody can say, I respect you, but a man feels it when it shows up in the way you talk to him, the way you listen to him, the way you acknowledge his efforts. For a man, respect is in the tone of your voice when you disagree. It's in whether you cut him down in front of others or you save that conversation for private. It's in whether you highlight what he did right instead of always pointing out what he did wrong. Respect is not submission. It's not pretending he's flawless. It's about treating him like he has weight, like his presence matters. When a man feels that, he starts to lower his guard, and that's when you get access to the real him. Without respect, a man will keep his guard up forever because he doesn't want to feel belittled or dismissed. Think about it this way. A man can go out in the world and take hits all day long. He can get disrespected at work, ignored in the world, overlooked by society. But if he comes home and feels respected under his own roof, that man can take on anything. Respect is like fuel. It fills him back up when life drains him. You ever seen a man light up just because his woman looked at him and said, I'm proud of you? That's not a small thing. That's everything to him. Because in his mind, he's not just hustling for money, not just working for status. He's doing it for the respect that makes him feel like a man. The thing about men is we equate respect with love. A lot of women say, well, I tell him I love him all the time. That's good, but love without respect feels empty to a man. You can love somebody and still talk to them in a way that cuts deep. You can love somebody and still ignore their effort. You can love somebody but not show you trust their judgment. And when a man feels that, it doesn't matter how many times you say, I love you. He hears something else. But when respect is present, love feels real to him. When you respect him, every I love you lands in his chest a little deeper because he knows you're not just saying it, you mean it. When a man feels respected, he starts to open up in ways that surprise even him. Men aren't taught to be vulnerable. We're taught to be strong, to be providers, to be fixers. But respect melts that programming. when he knows you're not going to tear him down for being human, when he knows you won't use his weakness against him, he'll share his fears, his doubts, and his dreams. And once he starts sharing those things, you've reached a level in him that most people will never get to see. That's when you become his safe place. And that's when he starts giving you the kind of loyalty, love, and commitment that you can't buy, can't manipulate, can't force. It comes naturally because he feels safe. Disrespect, on the other hand, shuts a man down. It might not be obvious right away because some men won't even argue back. He'll just go quiet. He'll stop talking. He'll stop sharing. That's when he starts retreating into himself. And the sad part is once a man feels consistently disrespected, he starts building walls so high it's hard for anybody to climb over them. That's why respect isn't just a small detail. It's the foundation of how a man experiences love. Respect shows up in the little things too. When he fixes something around the house and you notice it, that's respect. When he talks about his goals and you listen without cutting him off, that's respect. When you trust his decision-making instead of always assuming he's wrong, that's respect. It's those small signals that add up in his head and tell him, she values me. And when he feels valued, he'll go harder for you than for anybody else. He'll protect you, provide for you, and make sure you never feel like you're alone. That's the exchange respect fuels him. And in return, he gives you everything he's got. The truth is, respect is like oxygen for a man. Without it, he can survive for a little while, but eventually he'll suffocate. With it, he thrives, he grows, he becomes the best version of himself. And it's not because you changed him. It's because you created the environment where he could let go of the armor and just be himself. When a man feels respected, his confidence grows, his drive gets stronger, and his love gets deeper. And the funny thing is, once he feels respected by you, he turns around and pours that same respect back into you because now he's not on guard anymore. He's open, he's present, he's committed in a way that's real. Belief fuels him. When you believe in him before he believes in himself, he'll move mountains. Every man carries a vision inside of him, but not every man has the confidence to chase it. Sometimes he doubts himself. Sometimes he questions if he's good enough. And sometimes he looks at the obstacles in front of him and feels like they're too big to conquer. On the outside, he might not admit it because men are trained to look strong and unshaken. But on the inside, he's fighting thoughts that whisper, you can't do it. What changes everything for him is when somebody close, especially the woman he cares for, steps in and says, I believe in you. That one sentence has the power to shift his entire mindset. It makes him think, if she sees it in me, maybe it really is there. A man crave belief the same way plants crave sunlight. It doesn't matter how strong the seed is. Without light, it won't grow. A man can have all the skills, all the potential, and all the dreams in the world. But if he doesn't feel like anybody believes in him, it's hard to bring it out. Belief acts like fuel in his tank. It pushes him when his own self-belief runs low. It tells him he's not crazy for wanting more, not foolish for dreaming big. And that outside belief has a way of planting an inner belief that lasts. The funny thing about men is that we'll act like we've got it under control, but behind closed doors, we question ourselves. We look at the people who are ahead of us and wonder if we'll ever catch up. We replay past mistakes and wonder if they define us. And when a man doesn't feel believed in, he starts to shrink. He settles for less. He talks himself out of risks. He starts convincing himself that ordinary is good enough. But when he feels belief pouring into him, especially from someone who matters, he starts standing taller, speaking with more confidence, and moving with more purpose. That belief pulls him out of his comfort zone and into his calling. When a woman tells a man she believes in him, it's not just words. It's an energy. It's the way she looks at him when he shares his dream. It's the way she doesn't laugh when his vision sounds bigger than his reality. It's the way she reminds him of his strengths when he only sees his weaknesses. That belief rewires something inside of him. Suddenly, that risk he was afraid to take doesn't look so scary. That business idea he thought was too ambitious starts to look possible. That promotion he was hesitant to go after feels within reach. Her belief becomes the mirror he looks into when his own reflection is covered in doubt. Belief also builds resilience in a man. The road to success is full of failure, rejection, and setbacks. Men who walk that road alone sometimes give up because the weight feels too heavy. But when he knows someone believes in him, he can take another step even when the last one knocked him down. That belief acts like a voice in his head that keeps repeating, you've got this. Don't stop now. A man can face 100 no's in the world, but if he's got one strong yes in his corner, it gives him the strength to keep fighting. The impact of belief is not just emotional, it's practical too. A man who feels believed and works harder stays more disciplined and refuses to quit. He wants to live up to that belief. He doesn't want to make and disappoint the person who saw something in him when he didn't see it himself. That belief becomes a challenge he accepts. It lights a fire under him and pushes him to stretch farther than he thought he could. And once he reaches the goal, once he actually accomplishes what once seemed impossible, he never forgets who believed in him before he had proof of his own success. Men remember belief. They may forget compliments. They may forget small arguments, but they never forget the person who believed in them during their lowest moment. That belief bonds him to you in a way that's deeper than attraction. It builds trust. It makes him think, she's not just here for who I am right now. She's here for who I can become. That's powerful because it speaks to his potential instead of just his present. And when a man feels like someone sees his potential, it makes him want to live up to it. Sometimes belief is the difference between a man staying stuck and a man breaking through. He can have all the talent in the world, but if he doesn't believe in himself, it stays locked inside. Your belief becomes the key. You don't have to hand him the plan. You don't have to carry the load, but when you hand him belief, he starts creating his own plan and carrying his own load with more determination. It's not about doing it for him. It's about reminding him he's capable of doing it himself. When a man feels that steady belief, he changes the way he walks into rooms. He changes the way he talks about his future. He changes the way he responds to failing. He stops doubting and starts building. He stops hesitating and starts acting. Belief turns fear into courage, hesitation into action, and insecurity into confidence. And the thing is that courage doesn't just benefit him, it benefits the relationship, it benefits the family, it benefits the future he's building. Belief in a man doesn't just change him, it changes everything connected to him. Admiration makes him stronger. Your pride in him is his secret power source. A man can walk through life with all kinds of pressures on his shoulders, but nothing boosts his strength like knowing the woman he loves admires him. It's not just about love, because love says, I care about you, but admiration says, I'm proud of you, I look up to you, I value what you do and who you are. That does something to a man's spirit that no paycheck, no applause, and no outside recognition can compare to. A man can get praise from the world, but if he comes home and doesn't feel admired, the praise feels hollow. On the other hand, if he gets no recognition outside, but comes home to admiration, he feels like he can take on the world again. Tomorrow, admiration feeds a man in ways most people don't see. It's not about ego, it's about validation. Men are constantly measuring themselves. Am I providing enough? Am I protecting enough? Am I achieving enough? Even when he doesn't say it out loud, those questions are running in his mind. When you admire him, you answer those questions without him having to ask. You tell him, yes, you are enough, and I see it. That kind of reinforcement builds strength inside him. Suddenly, the weight he's carrying doesn't feel as heavy. Suddenly, the battles he's fighting don't feel as lonely. Your admiration becomes a reminder that his effort has meaning, that he's not invisible, that his sacrifices are noticed. It's not always about admiring the big wins. Of course, it feels good to hear, I'm proud of you after a promotion or a big achievement, but the admiration that really fuels him is the everyday recognition. When he fixes something around the house and you say, I appreciate you taking care of that. When he gets up early and goes to work and you acknowledge, I love how hard you work for us. When he takes time with the kids and you let him know, you're such a good father. Those small moments of admiration go deeper than the big ones because they show you're paying attention. They show you're watching him and appreciating not just what he does, but who he is. Men thrive on admiration because it connects directly to their identity. A man wants to feel like he's capable, like he's respected, like he's someone his partner can be proud of. Admiration reinforces that identity. It tells him he's living up to the role he wants to fill. Without it, he may still keep working, but he'll start feeling empty. He may still provide, but he'll start questioning if it's noticed. He may still show up, but he'll wonder if his presence really matters. With admiration, there's no question. He knows he's valued, and that knowledge strengthens him mentally, emotionally, and even physically. Some women underestimate how powerful their words are in this area. A simple, I'm proud of you, can change the way a man walks out the door. He might leave the house with his chest out a little more, with a little more confidence in his step, because your admiration added fuel to his spirit. A man can face tough meetings, hard jobs, or difficult situations, but if he hears that his woman is proud of him, he'll carry that voice with him into every challenge. It becomes a source of strength he can draw on when things get tough. The opposite is true as well. A lack of admiration weakens a man over time. If he feels like nothing he does is ever good enough, if he feels like his efforts are invisible, if he feels like he can't earn pride from the person who matters most, he starts to shut down. He may still move, but he's moving on empty. He may still try, but his heart isn't in it. And after a while, he stops pushing himself because he doesn't see the point. That's why admiration is not a small detail. It's a lifeline. It keeps him fueled when the world drains him. Admiration also deepens the connection between you and him. When he knows you're proud of him, he feels bonded to you. It's more than romance, it's partnership. It's knowing that the person by his side sees him as a man worth admiring. That bond creates loyalty because he doesn't want to lose the one person who sees him in that light. It makes him more invested in the relationship, more motivated to keep building, more determined to keep being a man you can be proud of. Admiration can also pull out strengths he didn't even know he had. Sometimes a man doesn't recognize his own growth until someone points it out. When you admire his patience, he realizes he's stronger than he thought. When you admire his work ethic, he feels proud of the discipline he's built. When you admire his way of handling challenges, he starts to believe in his resilience. Admiration doesn't just strengthen the man he already is, it develops the man he's becoming. It inspires him to live up to the vision you see in him. The beauty of admiration is that it doesn't cost anything. It's free, but it's priceless. It doesn't take hours. It takes seconds. A sentence here, a smile there, a look that says, I see you and I'm proud of you. That's all it takes to refill his spirit. And once he's full, he pours that energy back into you, back into the family, back into everything he's building. Because when a man feels admired, he doesn't just get stronger for himself, he gets stronger for everybody connected to him. Encouragement melts his ego. Your words can heal stress faster than anything else. A man can carry pressure on his back all day long, and he'll act like it doesn't bother him. He'll keep his face straight, keep moving forward, keep pretending that everything is under control. But inside, the weight of responsibility, expectations, and self-doubt can eat him alive. Men are trained to keep their emotions bottled up, to push through instead of breaking down, but that doesn't mean the struggle isn't there. What makes the difference is encouragement. The right words spoken at the right time can cut through layers of stress, pride, and silence. Encouragement has the power to soften a man's heart, ease his mind, and remind him that he's not carrying the load alone. It doesn't take long speeches or dramatic actions. Just a few real, heartfelt words can make feel like he can breathe again. Encouragement is like medicine for a man's spirit. When the world beats him up, when his job drains him, when his own thoughts turn against him, encouragement becomes the antidote. It speaks to the part of him that's tired, the part of him that doubts himself, the part of him that feels invisible. Men don't always admit when they need help, but they feel it deeply when someone steps in and says, I see you, I believe in you, you've got this. That moment breaks down the walls his ego built to protect him. Encouragement doesn't make him weak, it makes him human again. It gives him permission to stop pretending he's invincible and start believing he's capable. The thing about encouragement is that it works in both big and small moments. Of course, when he's chasing a dream or trying something new, your encouragement pushes him to keep going. But even in the everyday grind, encouragement matters. When he gets up early every morning and goes out into the world, hearing you say, I appreciate how hard you work, can reset his entire mood. When he faces a setback and feels like giving up, hearing you say, don't stop now, I know you can do this, can reignite his determination. Encouragement doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be consistent. Those little reminders day after day stack up in his heart and turn into strength he draws on when things get heavy. Men often pretend that compliments don't matter, but the truth is they matter more than they'll ever admit. Encouragement cuts through the noise in his head that says, you're not good enough. You'll never make it. You're failing. Everybody battles those voices, but men are less likely to talk about them. Your words become the counter to that negative soundtrack. When you say, I'm proud of you, it drowns out the voice of failure. When you say, you're doing a great job, it drowns out the voice of doubt. When you say, I'm with you no matter what, it drowns out the voice of loneliness. Encouragement replaces insecurity with assurance, and that transformation gives him energy to keep pushing. Encouragement also changes the way a man relates to you. When he knows that he can come to you and find encouragement instead of criticism, he starts opening up more. He starts sharing his struggles instead of hiding them. He starts trusting you with the parts of himself he usually shields from the world. That's because encouragement builds safety. A man doesn't fear judgment when he knows encouragement is waiting for him. And once that safety is established, he connects deeper. He doesn't just see you as his partner. He sees you as his anchor. That's a bond that no one else can replace. Another thing about encouragement is that it lasts longer than you might think. A single sentence of encouragement can echo in his head for weeks. When he's sitting alone, doubting himself, he'll remember your words. When he's facing a decision that scares him, he'll remember how you told him you trusted him. When he's tired and ready to quit, he'll hear your voice pushing him forward. Encouragement is like planting seeds in his mind that grow over time. Long after you've spoken, it keeps giving strength, even when you're not physically there. That's the unseen power of it. It multiplies inside him until it becomes part of the way he thinks about himself. Encouragement is not about ignoring his flaws or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to highlight his effort, his progress, and his potential instead of focusing only on his mistakes. Criticism tears a man down, but encouragement builds him up. Criticism might push him to change out of guilt or pressure, but encouragement inspires him to grow because he wants to, not because he feels forced. That difference is huge. A man will resist nagging, but he'll respond to encouragement with motivation. He'll want to prove your word's right. He'll want to live up to the belief you've shown in him. That's why encouragement doesn't just melt his ego. It reshapes it into something stronger and healthier. Encouragement also makes him a better man overall. A man who feels encouraged becomes more patient, more confident, and more willing to take risks. He stops living from fear and starts living from strength. That transformation doesn't just benefit him, it benefits the relationship. A man who feels encouraged has more energy to love, more drive to provide, and more courage to lead. Encouragement doesn't just change how he feels about himself, it changes how he shows up for everyone around him. That's why your words carry so much weight. They don't just affect him in the moment. They ripple out into every area of his life. At the end of the day, encouragement is one of the most powerful tools you can give a man. It costs nothing, but it adds everything. It heals wounds that pride tries to cover up. It lifts burdens that stress tries to pile on. It speaks life into places where doubt tries to speak death. Encouragement melts away the ego that says, I have to be perfect, and replaces it with the truth that says, I'm strong enough and I'm not alone. Trust disarms him. When he feels trusted, he opens up emotionally. A man can put on the toughest exterior in the world, but deep inside, what he really wants is to know that the woman he's with trusts him. Trust is not just about believing he won't cheat. It's much deeper than that. It's about believing in his judgment, his ability to lead, his intentions, his character. Men carry a lot of responsibility on their shoulders, and nothing makes them feel heavier than being constantly doubted. Doubt makes a man defensive, but trust makes a man vulnerable in the best way. When a man feels trusted, he lets his guard down. He doesn't have to prove himself every second. He doesn't have to fight for validation. He doesn't have to defend his every move. That freedom disarms him. And in that moment of disarmament, you get to see the real man behind the armor. Trust is one of the highest forms of respect. When you trust a man's decisions, it tells him that you see him as capable. When you trust his word, it tells him you believe in his integrity. When you trust his leadership, it tells him you believe he has what it takes to guide and protect. That kind of trust builds him up more than any material reward ever could. It sends a signal to his spirit that says, you are enough. And men thrive in environments where they feel enough. Without trust, he starts shrinking. He starts second-guessing himself. He starts wondering if he'll ever measure up. With trust, he rises to the occasion. He grows into the very man you already believe to be. Trust doesn't mean ignoring mistakes, but it does mean not holding his mistakes against him forever. A man knows he's going to fall short sometimes. He knows he's not perfect. But when you trust that his intentions are good, when you trust that he's trying, when you trust that he cares, you give him the confidence to keep striving. Doubt crushes effort, but trust multiplies it. A man who feels doubted eventually asks himself, why try if it'll never be enough? But a man who feels trusted asks himself, how can I rise even higher so I don't let her down? That's the difference between a relationship where he pulls away and a relationship where he leans in closer. Trust also affects the way he communicates. When he feels doubted, he withholds. He doesn't want to explain himself because he assumes you won't believe him anyway. He doesn't want to share his dreams because he assumes you'll tear them down. He doesn't want to expose his weaknesses because he assumes you'll use them against him. But when he feels trusted, he shares more. He talks about what's on his mind. He admits when he's scared. He opens up about his goals, even the ones that seem far off. He starts showing you the layers of himself that he hides from the world. Trust unlocks honesty, and honesty unlocks intimacy for men. Trust is tied to identity. A man wants to feel like he can be counted on. He wants to feel like he's reliable, dependable, capable. When you trust him, you confirm that identity. You affirm what he already hopes to be true about himself. That affirmation strengthens his confidence and deepens his bond with you. A man who feels trusted by his woman carries himself differently. He makes decisions with more care. He works harder to protect and provide. He wants to live up to the trust that's been given to him. That's why trust is not just a gift. It's a challenge that inspires growth. It makes him want to be better because he doesn't want to betray the belief you've placed in him. Trust is also contagious. When you show trust in him, it inspires him to trust you more in return. He feels safe enough to give you more freedom, more openness, more honesty. It creates a cycle where both of you can relax instead of always questioning each other. Suspicion breeds distance, but trust breeds closeness. And once that closeness is built, it's hard to break because both of you know the bond isn't built on fear. It's built on faith in each other. The power of trust shows up in small, everyday ways too. When you trust him to handle something without micromanaging, he feels respected. When you trust his decisions instead of second guessing him, he feels valued. When you trust him to protect your heart, he feels honored. Those little moments add up. They tell him, she believes in me. And that belief fuels him when the world makes him feel overlooked or underestimated. Even if everyone else doubts him, your trust becomes his anchor. It reminds him that he doesn't have to prove himself to the whole world as long as he's proven himself to you. When a man feels trusted, his defenses drop. He doesn't need to puff his chest out to show he's strong. He doesn't need to argue to prove he's right. He doesn't need to hide his emotions to protect his pride. Trust strips away the need for all that, and what's left is authenticity. He becomes more tender, more honest, more connected. That's why trust disarms him. It takes away the battle he's been fighting inside and replaces it with peace. And when a man feels that peace, he's able to give more love, more patience, and more loyalty than he could ever give. Why? Carrying the weight of suspicion, trust isn't built overnight, but it's built moment by moment, choice by choice. Every time you choose to believe his word, every time you choose to see his effort, every time you choose to give him the benefit of the doubt, you're stacking bricks of trust. And those bricks eventually build a foundation strong enough to hold the entire relationship. A man standing on that kind of foundation doesn't just feel like a partner, he feels like he's home. Recognition locks his loyalty. When you notice his effort, he gives you his best. Every man wants to feel like what he does matters. A man can work long hours, fix things around the house, carry responsibilities that nobody else sees, and on the surface, he may act like it's just part of the job. But deep down, he's hoping that someone notices, that someone sees the sacrifices, the long days, the times he pushed through exhaustion to make sure everything was okay. Recognition isn't about feeding his ego. It's about affirming that his effort has value. When a man feels recognized, something shifts inside him. He feels validated, he feels appreciated, and he feels motivated to keep giving even more. Recognition is not just a nice gesture. It's a powerful force that ties his loyalty to the person who gave it to him. Men often walk around with invisible loads. They deal with pressure from work, society, family, and their own personal expectations. Many times they carry it silently, never voicing how heavy it feels. When nobody acknowledges that weight, a man can start to feel like a machine instead of a human. But the moment someone says, I see how hard you're working, or I appreciate what you do for us, the heaviness lifts just a little. That small recognition tells him he's not invisible, that what he does isn't taken for granted. That single moment can restore energy he thought he lost. And the more consistently recognition shows up, the more consistently he'll show up with his best self. Recognition builds loyalty because it creates an emotional bond. When a man feels seen, he feels safe. When he feels safe, he connects. And when he connects, he commits. He doesn't want to walk away from the place where he's valued because he knows how rare it is to be truly recognized. The truth is, men don't need perfection, they need appreciation. They'll stay where they feel appreciated, and they'll give their all to protect and maintain that bond. Recognition locks his loyalty not through fear, not through control, but through gratitude. When he knows his effort is seen and appreciated, he naturally wants to give even more recognition. Also changes the way a man views challenges. Without it, every obstacle feels heavier. He might keep pushing, but it feels like he's running on empty. With recognition, those same challenges turn into opportunities to prove himself even more. He thinks, she sees what I do, she values me, so let me go harder. It's not about competition, it's about pride. Your recognition gives him a reason to fight through stress and setbacks because he knows his sacrifices don't go unnoticed. It gives meaning to the struggle. And when struggle has meaning, it becomes bearable. Recognition doesn't remove the load, but it makes the load worth carrying. Recognition also builds trust. A man wants to know that the person he's sacrificing for understands what it takes. When you recognize his effort, you show him that you're paying attention. You're not just looking at the results, you're noticing the process. You're seeing the long hours, the tough decisions, the silent battles. That kind of recognition tells him, I'm with you in this. I see the work behind the outcome. And once he feels that, he knows he's not alone. That kind of awareness deepens the bond because he feels understood, not just love. It's important to understand that recognition doesn't have to be grand. You don't have to throw a celebration every time he does something. The strongest recognition often comes in the smallest words. A simple thank you, a sincere I appreciate you, a heartfelt I'm proud of the way you handled that can carry more weight than 100 empty compliments. Men listen for sincerity. They can tell when recognition is real versus when it's forced. Real recognition touches his core because it speaks directly to his effort and his character. That's what he craves. Not flattery, but authenticity. When a man feels unrecognized, it creates frustration. He may not always say it out loud, but over time it shows. He may grow resentful. He may feel overlooked, and he may begin to question whether his sacrifices are worth it. This doesn't mean he'll stop loving, but it does mean his energy will shift. A man who feels unrecognized starts to pull back, while a man who feels recognized leans in. That's the difference recognition makes. It doesn't just affect his mood in the moment. It shapes the way he invests in the relationship long-term. Recognition also influences how he sees himself. Men often define themselves by what they provide, protect, and accomplish. When you recognize his efforts, you confirm his identity in a positive way. You reinforce that he's doing what he set out to do, that he's living up to his role. That affirmation boosts his confidence and makes him feel secure. And when he feels secure, he performs even better. Recognition becomes a cycle that builds more recognition. Because the stronger he feels, the more effort he gives. And the more effort he gives, the more reasons you have to recognize him. Another hidden power of recognition is how it impacts his loyalty. A man will never forget the person who acknowledged him when others didn't. He'll always feel connected to the one who noticed his effort when the rest of the world overlooked him. That connection builds loyalty that isn't based on obligation, but on gratitude. Gratitude is a bond stronger than fear, stronger than attraction, stronger than convenience. Gratitude is what makes a man stay, protect, and keep giving. Recognition creates that gratitude, and gratitude locks in his loyalty in a way nothing else can. Recognition is not just about the big picture, it's about the daily details. When you notice the little things he does, when you acknowledge the consistency he shows, when you give him credit for the quiet sacrifices, it reinforces to him that he's in the right place. It reminds him that his presence and his contribution matter. And once a man feels like he matters, he stops holding back. He gives all of himself, his love, his energy, his protection, his loyalty, because he knows it's not wasted.